Good evening. I will call to order the Finance Committee meeting on March 1st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. We have councilors participating in the chamber and remotely via Teams meeting. Per the governor's order, all votes will be a roll call vote, and I will begin with asking for a roll call. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas is present.
Councilor Tenere.
Councilor Tenere is present.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram is present.
Councilor Perlman.
Councilor Perlman is present.
And Councilor Irish is present. We also have President Ossing in the chambers, as well as Councilor Landers and Councilor Navin, as well as remotely we have Councilor Roby, I believe. Councilor Roby? Thank you. We have 7 items on the agenda this evening. We have 5 transfer requests. We have a review of the abbreviated budget process, and we have a request to rescind over $4 million in various bonds. So I will start with the first order, which is order number 21-100-8280, a transfer request in the amount of $370,000 from the PEG funds to Cable Trust to fund the FY22 budget for WMCT-TV. And with that, I will read the letter submitted by the Mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, I'm submitting for your review a transfer in the amount of $370,000 from the Marlborough Public Educational and Government Access Channels to fund the fiscal year 2022 budget for WMCT-TV. The WMCT-TV has submitted a transfer request to fund its annual budget that is attached. Their total operating budget is $444,356.42, and the balance will come from the surplus of the FY21 budget. The total FY22 operating budget includes $20,000 in capital upgrades. I will be available along with WMCT-TV Acting Executive Director Michael Lawton to discuss this request in more detail. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. With that, I will begin and ask Director Lawton to be available for any questions from the committee. Thank you, Mark. Good evening, Mike. Nice to see you.
You too, Councilor.
So I did. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council, I just wanted to let you know Mike's been doing a great job since he took over this year from Dan. It's his first budget, so I told him that the council is very nice. Don't worry about a thing. They're going to ask you nice, easy questions, and we'll get through this together. So with that, I think we got a good proposal for a budget, and I'll turn it over to Mike to just add a couple comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it's been an exciting few months already since I've stepped in for Dan. We had a big undertaking this fall and winter where we were live streaming all the high school games. So we collaborated with Marlborough Public Schools and Jill Moran specifically to make sure all these games get televised or on YouTube, so all the families could still watch their student athletes play the games. And we were successful in that. We were doing varsity games and JV games, and we got every single one covered. So I think that was I'm pretty proud that we were able to do that, along with, again, Marlborough Public Schools, and I want to thank them for their help with that. And yeah, this year not too much has changed from this past year. But if you have any questions, let me know.
No, thank you definitely for what you've done for the city and keeping us informed. I will open it to the Finance Committee first for any questions. Councilor Tenere.
I have a quick question. My nephew plays hockey on the hockey team. So,
yeah,
does it have to be going on to YouTube, or can it get transmitted right to WMCT-TV?
That is something we are working on. We're hoping to get that accomplished, where we can air it simultaneously on the channels as well as YouTube. Right. So yeah, that should be coming shortly. Hopefully.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Chair. You have a 6.2 decrease. Do you expect to be hiring for this fiscal year?
Yeah, we're definitely going to be hiring shortly. We're already getting some applicants in to replace. We lost Dan, and we also lost the news director a few weeks back. So we're replacing her too. So yeah, we'll be replacing the news director as well as the position that I was working in.
So will you go par? Because if you're 6.2 decrease because you have a lack of turnover and then you hire new people, will that budget go up or no?
No, we actually budgeted for those positions.
For those positions, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other further discussion? Oh, Council Landers.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. It's probably unfair to give it to Mike. There's always one expense that bothers me with the report, and that's rent. It's $51,000 a year, $1,000 a week. You know, I often wonder if we came up with the availability of space, could you move out of it? Now, over the years, and I don't know the space issue in the school right now, but, you know, if you ever put something like that into the high school, and then we used to, you know, when Bruce Church was there, we had a wonderful TV and AV production. You know, what in fact, say if we had some rooms at the high school, we must, in your rooms down, or build the school or something like that. Well, what I'm really getting at, Mr. Chairman, and I'm gonna stop, you know, that's $1,000 a week. I'd rather see that go towards someone's salary, all right? And, you know, expand it, because wonderful programs there, you know, expanded it. And, you know, sometimes, not now, but I'm gonna mention that about MEDC too. You know, they're paying rent every year. And, you know, it's not unusual in cities and towns, even though they're not officially part of the school in the city, they're quasi, all right? We just hate to see rent expenses go. If we had room, and then we expanded the program. So, Mr. Chairman, I just bring that up to give you a heads up, maybe next year.
No, thank you, Councilor. And I did remember that from the year prior as well, and I did correspond with Director Lawton on that a little bit, on the cost of moving wires and things like that from Comcast and I think Verizon, but I'll let you answer that, Director.
Yeah, it's going to be just a matter of how much it's going to cost to move all, yeah, as Councilor Irish just stated, move our signal that's now coming out of our station down at the old fire station, how much it would be to move everything to output from a school. That's really the biggest cost involved in that.
Even if it was 30,000, spread it over 5 years, it's only 66,000 a year. That's it.
Oh, sorry.
But thank you, Councilor. Very good question. Thank you. Any further discussion? Council Perlman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm sorry, it's a little hard to hear some of the audios. I don't know if that's because of the microphone. So just as a note for those on remote. First, just want to thank everything that WMCT has done. I've been really impressed with all that you've been covering, and I always appreciate my communication with you all. So thank you for that important work. I'm curious if you could speak to some of the upgrades that you plan to be doing in this coming year. And, you know, it says on here like the 20,000 for the capital upgrades. If you could speak to that a little bit, specifically about how kind of keeping up with the technology or what some of those upgrades are.
Yeah, you just said it, Councilor. The biggest upgrades are for our computers. We haven't purchased any new computers in a few years now, so we're trying to keep up with that. And with the live stream stuff, that's really come to the forefront now. We needed a few new equipment for that to make that possible. So that's where most of the upgrades are going to right now.
Great. No, that's very helpful to know. And then in terms of kind of, I'm imagining both like there must be some sort of increase in your services as well, given that people are, you know, not able to do things in person. They're using things virtual or watching things online or on TV. And I'm just curious, you know, how the staffing is going right now with those two positions and maybe how quickly you plan to fill them. I know Councilor Dumas already mentioned that that's, you know, allocated in the budget, but just curious how you all are meeting demand currently with some of the staffing changes.
Sorry, can you repeat that last part of the question, Counselor? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was saying, how are you meeting some of the demand for your programming and your work, given some of the staffing changes right now?
Yeah, well, one thing that was kind of done before was we all basically had, 2 jobs, and we just do those 2 jobs, and that was it. But now we're becoming more versatile in terms of what we're working on, and now everybody, like tonight, Lindsay's back there taping this meeting right now, which she hadn't done really in the past. So we're training everybody to do a little bit of everything, so that when we are short, someone else can step up and do it.
No, that's good to hear. I know it sounds like the succession planning that we've been doing on the city side, so it's glad to see that that's happening for you all as well. And then my last question is really around kind of moving forward as well with, I know the space thing was brought up. Are there other anticipated costs that you might see down the line, or things that might need to be fixed a year or two ahead? Just kind of thinking around some of the equipment, if we do these upgrades, will that sustain you for how long of a period?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to answer that because technology is changing so fast. There's things that we're purchasing now that we wouldn't have even thought about, a year ago today. But I would suspect that there will be things that come up. But luckily, a lot of the equipment is now cheaper than it was, 10, 15 years ago. So we should be able to maintain our productions at a high level, for the foreseeable future.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Council.
Mr. Chairman.
Council Orem.
Thank you. A couple questions. Hi, Michael. How you doing?
Hi, Councilor.
And maybe to the mayor as well, but in the letter it suggests that the $444,356, that of that, obviously you're requesting 370, and the rest is going to be from the surplus this year. That comes out to about $74,356. I looked at the salaries, and that the difference from this year to next is around 253 versus 230, so around 23,000. So where's the rest of that surplus? I just can't seem to find it. If you could maybe help me on that.
Council, we can get you the prior year budget to compare. That's just comparing last year's budget to this year's budget. We did, as you just stated, save quite a bit in the line item because we've been down a couple of people over the last 6 months now, approximately. So that's a substantial part of it. I made sure that we had enough money in there to cover us through the balance of the year, and didn't want to transfer additional money just for the sake of putting it over there. But I think if you take a look at last year's budget and the surplus from that compared to this year, and it should fall right out. But I didn't take that with me tonight.
Okay, so maybe that's what it was. When I saw the 253,000 for this year, 750. So some of that 253,000, because it shows the different salaries. Obviously, I presume that, Michael, you're full-time, correct?
Correct, Councilor.
Yeah, and help me here. I'm trying to figure this out. So your salary isn't the same as the previous executive director?
Correct.
From what I can see in FY22?
That's correct, Councilor.
Yeah, no, okay. So I can see some of it there, and because you lost some other staff, okay, it's making sense now that I can make up that difference of that 23,000 for next year. I was just curious where the surplus was coming in. I know in the letter you sent to, there's a 6.25% reduction. I can see that especially in your salary. So hopefully you'll stay with us and can beef that up as time goes on. A couple more questions, and maybe the mayor can help me on this. It's just more about being consistent. We're starting to pay now our commissions and boards. They do the same. They pay $150 per, it looks like, 4 meetings per year. And is there an attendance requirement for that, since we're looking at that for our other, like the planning board has to have an attendance requirement? We're looking at that for conservation. What is the rule for a member of trustee? Do they have to be at the meeting to get that stipend?
They do, Councilor. That's actually where I pulled it from, that they have to be in attendance to receive the stipend. And it's
Okay,
been
that's
that amount
just for
now.
consistency. That's good. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
And it's been, I think it's been that same amount since the organization started a long time ago. I know it's been that way for 20 years anyway.
Okay, I'm more concerned about consistency, trying to keep it the same as what we're doing for our committees and commissions. It seems close enough. And another question, Michael, maybe you can help me on technical support. Obviously, you're not a city department, but do you ever seek technical support from our municipal information systems, or do you have to go out and seek that for the 5,000 privately?
There have been times when the IT department here in Marlborough, Mark Gibbs and Scott Parmenter, they have helped us out with things. But when it comes to TV things, we usually have to seek help for that.
Okay, so you got 5 for web development as well as 5,000 for technical. So that would be more from non-city agencies, I presume, then.
Correct, Councilor.
Well, excellent. I appreciate your information and the overview from both you and the mayor, and look forward to working with you in the future as well as now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Mike and Mr. Mayor. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is Councilor Roby.
Yes, Councilor Roby.
Thank you. Mayor, can I get a clarification on the stipend for the trustees? If I take the 1,800, that's the total in the budget, and divide it by 150, I only get 12. So they're not each getting 150 a month, are they? It's that 150 monthly rate is for all 4 people?
They are receiving 150 per meeting, and it's been cut back to less than the 12 meetings a year. These meetings were lasting 3 and 4 minutes. You know, they run a pretty tight ship over there. Recently, we've had gone back to monthly meetings because of the change with Mike taking over. I'm sure he'll be up on his feet and going, and we can kind of see how the meeting schedule needs to be. But it had been 12 meetings a year, but like I said, some of the meetings were just so short, it was kind of ridiculous.
And also, can I get a clarification again on the surplus? The surplus is around, or the difference between the 444,000 and what you're requesting from the council is about $75,000. So did you encumber money in fiscal year 21 budget? Or will it be encumbered out of, or are you just using it?
No, it's just using it, Counselor. There is no encumbrance. They don't run on the same system as the city. They run by GAAP for the most part. There'll be a surplus cash in the checking account that they can continue going on April 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-82802, a transfer request in the amount of $370,000 from PEG funds to Cable Trust Fund to the FY22 budget for WMCT-TV. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram votes yes.
Councilor Pearlman.
Councilor Pearlman votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0. Thank you. Good evening, Director.
Thank you, Councilors.
Okay, next on the agenda is order number 20-100-7959, that the City Council review the results of the FY21 abbreviated budget process, and is further ordered that the City Council approve the Massachusetts Department of Revenue Finance review recommendations for adopting an abbreviated budget authorization format for all departments for future city budgets, submitted by Councilor Irish and Councilor Ossing. We did get the information in our packets, and I'd like to just highlight some of the points. It goes back into 2000.
Chairman?
Oh.
Can we push this down, they asked if we could push this down, the agenda, till later in the program?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, then,
Oh, I'm sorry, I would have asked that first, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
So-
Thank you, Counselor. Yes, what we'll do is we'll move agenda item 20-100 down to later in the format. So we'll bring up the next one, which is item number 21-100-8185. Transfer request in the amount of $579,275.76 from undesignated fund free cash to miscellaneous mitigation account to be used to finish mitigation costs related to trench repairs as noted by City Engineer Tom DePercio. And I will read the letter submitted from the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, I am submitting for your review and approval a transfer in the amount of $579,275.76 from the undesignated fund to miscellaneous mitigation account. These funds from Eversource are to be used to finish mitigation costs related to trench repair where the city had planned resurfacing projects as noted in the city engineer Thomas DePercio's attached memo. If you have any questions, please contact me or City Engineer DePercio. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and obviously, we have a lot of money here, and we do have the entire A-team here tonight. The commissioners here with 3 assistant commissioners, so between everybody, we should be able to answer the questions. But really, the 2 big items that we have to take a look at prior to this, you had the transfer of $579,000. That was mitigation money that was received because of all the utility work being done in the city. So it was a negotiated number based on the number of feet that they dug up and made a mess of around the city. And I had asked the chairman to hold off on taking this up until we could send down the bond request, because they really kind of blend together on doing some overlay streets and some reconstruction of different streets. So in your packet, if you consider taking a look at both of those together, you'll see that as far as the overlays go, we have a list of streets that is included in here. There's 6, 12, 13 streets to come out of the bond. And then in addition to that, there's a group of 4 streets, I believe, 4 streets that will require both the $579,000 and the Chapter 90 monies that the DPW gets to spend on different street construction projects. So we have a busy season in front of us, but the 579 itself covers Fontaine, Dawes, McCabe, and Simpson. So those will be on the reconstruction with the 579 and approximately $1 million of Chapter 90 money.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I do, and thank you for the city engineer as well, because I did see the letter. I think it will, to be able to utilize these funds more efficiently, I think we have a great team in place to be able to do that, so thank you very much. And I will open it up to any committee members if they had any questions on this.
Mr. Chairman, Councilor Oram?
Yep, Councilor Oram.
Yeah, in my packet, I did not see the streets. I just heard the 4 streets mentioned. So for the 579, are there any other streets also for the 1.9 million?
That's in the next request,
Yes.
Counselor. That's in the $10.4 million, but
Yeah.
the order before you now is the 579, and that is just those 4 streets.
Okay, then. And so the next one, you'll go over that and how many streets, and we'll go from there. But so that's fine. And again, those were the streets that Eversource didn't complete trenches on, those 4 streets?
They've done trenches all over the city. It's been really bad. But this was a negotiated number.
Okay.
that our DPW team worked on. Rather than them repairing them and doing a shoddy job, I'd rather have our team in charge and make sure it's done properly.
So if I may, so these streets will not just have the area of the trench resurfaced, but they'll be all completely resurfaced? Is that the process in place?
Okay, now you're getting into the weeds here, so I got to bring in the A-team, so.
Okay, that's fine.
The commissioner, or which one, who wants to speak on it, but someone get in the wall.
Thank you, Mr. DePercio.
So, Councilor Oram, the answer to that question is, yeah, these are full, those streets that the mayor just mentioned are full reconstruction streets.
Thank you.
Yep.
It makes sense, because if you just do the trench area, it'll probably deteriorate quicker, so that's good to hear. Thank you.
Council Perlman.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted, can you repeat the name of the streets? I got Simpson, but I couldn't make out the other ones that you indicated.
Fontaine, Dawes, McCabe, and Simpson. Unless Council Landers says these aren't good streets to do and we should move the money somewhere else.
I think it was an excellent choice.
But no, they're all in the same area down there, so we've been trying to cluster the projects together.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. And is there any timeline that we would anticipate for these, or kind of up for debate related to other projects?
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
What timeline would some of these, like these streets, be redone?
So it will be this year, 2021 construction season. We hope to get that project out to bid within a few weeks at the most. So it will be this year, this summer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Council Landers.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. One quick question, Tom. Does that include the sidewalks also?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just ask a question while we have the city engineer here.
Yes, Councilor.
And Tom, not to put you under any pressure here, but in general, how long will an overlay last on a street when you do an overlay, a mill resurface?
So we try to only mill and overlay the streets that have a base that's still in good condition. That's the idea behind pavement management. So you'd hope to get 15, 20 years if you keep up on the routine maintenance like crack sealing. So that's generally what you hope for.
Well, and I appreciate that, because my counselor, hopefully his ears are open, Councilor Navin, but down in my neighborhood, I walk it a lot, and it is starting to wear, and it was overlaid about 15 to 20 years ago, maybe a little longer. So it's lasted pretty long, but maybe it can be considered down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilor Oram, your concern has been noted. We will take that under advisement. Just to follow up on something the mayor said. Mayor, you had mentioned that obviously there's trench work all around the city with all the work that the utilities have been doing. Are all the streets where they have put open trenches and they've done open trench work, are those on a list to be on the overlay for curb to curb at some point? Are we keeping track of those so that at some point those will get done as well?
How does that? I mean, we've been trying to knock off as much as we can. The number of streets we've done over the last 10 years has been tremendous. We spent a lot of money, and when we got our first report from the company that came through and actually rated all of our streets, I made a commitment to this council. It was about a $100 million project to do all the streets in the city. And I made a commitment that I would come down with no less than $5 million a year for that project. And obviously it would take 20 years, but we would get started on it. And I think we've been able to stay to that, but prices continue to go up. So the $100 million is much more now. But we're in the process of determining, and I don't know if you have a better update on this, Tom, but determining whether we're gonna continue to use an outside company to do the rating, or whether we're gonna bring it in internally. But the last couple of years, we've been, trying to get all the streets up. Something that we've talked about before here on the council is you don't necessarily start at the bottom and work all your way through. You grab some at the bottom and some in the middle, because as we stated before, if you can save those streets that maybe the top course is really banged up, but you still have a good base, you can get another 15 years out of that road, as opposed to, just waiting another 2 or 3 or 5 years, and then you have to replace the whole thing. And the overlays are really reasonable to do. We're gonna talk about doing 13 overlays in the next order, for $1.9 million. Whereas you start talking about these other streets, and once you start digging them up, a perfect example of that is Spring Street. It's in dire need to be done over. But Spring Street's a very expensive street to do over. We're gonna end up committing a couple $1 million to do that street over. It's gonna be north of $2 million when we do it, hopefully in the next year or two. So it's grabbing the different layers of streets throughout, and it's not always getting the worst 5, maybe getting the worst 5 and then grabbing 5 from the middle.
Yep.
So.
Just to follow up on that, does the city have a general rule for when we're, after we go over and do overlay or we do a full depth reconstruction, do we put a moratorium on for any utilities or anyone else looking to come in and rip up any of our well-maintained streets?
We do, yeah. So there's a 1-year moratorium where there's no excavation allowed, and then there's 5 for the next 4 years. If somebody we generally would only allow it in an emergency, okay. And if they do, we'd put on some extra requirements in terms of the final trench paving.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's usually when Eversource calls us, is in that first or second year.
Councilor,
and to that point, Councilor, it's been very frustrating because we didn't even finish Maple Street. We had to make some emergency cuts in it.
Yep.
Jefferson Street's another example. We got a project going on down there, and I've told the entire team, we're not just gonna do a quick patch on the area that's been dug up, but there's gonna be an entire area of about 75 yards that's gonna be replaced before the occupancy permits are given out for that street, because we did just do Jefferson Street over. So it is very frustrating. We're trying to get on a better plan to notify the businesses and the neighbors when we're doing streets over, that if they want to hook up to anything or dig any trenches or need access to the road, they need to do it before we do the roads. We're in the process right now working with Meredith Harris from the MEDC to let everyone know down on Route 20. That's going to be a huge project, but we got a little bit of time. If you're looking to hook up into the street, do it now. Because the federal streets are, what, 5 years? The state streets, there's 2 different numbers, right?
I think so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for bringing, because I know I met with you on Spring Street, and I want to thank your wonderful team, because Engineer DePercio informed me about the Jefferson Street as well, because we had the concerns on that. So we have a wonderful team going forward with these projects, and definitely this money's better spent by our team. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So do you actually reach out to the utilities, the gas companies ahead of time and say, look, check for gas leaks, and make sure that, anything that's a minor gas leak is addressed, because usually construction tends to make gas leaks worse. So, try to be more proactive in actually replacing the pipes before the pavement goes in. Is that in plan, or?
We do, yep. So the communication is actually pretty good now. We communicate with them, and they'll reach out to us with their ideas for streets that they want to work on, and we do the same the other way, and we do try to coordinate. It's not a perfect system.
Sure.
Emergency leaks come up, or they, for other reasons, they'll tell us late in the game that they've got work to do on the street. But that's how this negotiation came to be is that we tried to coordinate some streets that we knew we were gonna do work on and they had on their list. And, you know, there's a benefit to them when they don't have to come back and do their final paving. So we said that they should pay us in lieu of that paving. So that's how this money came to be, is through that coordination with them on the projects.
Okay, good, thanks. Yep.
Councilor Tenera.
If there's no more questions, motion to approve?
I will second that. Motion has been,
Mr. Chairman, just so you know, I think Councilor Roby wanted to speak. I think Councilor Perlman and I did ask. I want to speak to it before we go further.
thank you, Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted a clarification. I know the mayor did list 4 streets that he says are being milled and overlaid with this particular money, but in the next agenda item, there's a list that says to me is covered with the 2.5 million that includes this transfer. So are these additional streets to what's on that letter? Because the 4 he read are not on the letter.
The 4 streets covered by the 570, the 4 streets that the 479,000 is going to do, plus the Chapter 90 money. Between the 2, we will be doing Fontaine, Dawes, McCabe, and Simpson.
Okay, so the letter does not have the complete list of streets. Thank you.
Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to chime in on the streets needing to be redone comment. I know I've talked to you, Chair Irish, and others. Just Fremont Street, I also want to advocate for being on the list of, I know is one of those from the bottom needing to kind of start from scratch, but just wanted to make sure I put that into the space as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perlman. Yes, again, I believe City Engineer DePercio heard me many times on many of these streets, and we do certainly have been informed, but we do have a consultant that does the assessing of these roads to see what can be, repaired or done efficiently to go forward. So I think the engineer will make a note of that as well. But any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just one note, and I'll be quick.
Thank you.
It was mentioned by the mayor that the cost of repaving, remilling, and so forth, overlays, is going up. So I like the idea of us mitigating fees for trench repair from the utilities. I think that's a great idea. I hope we continue it, and I hope we stay very current with what the costs are, so that as time goes on, we can increase the mitigation fees that are received. Thank you, and thank you for the good work from all.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Motion has been made by Councilor Tenera, seconded by the chair, to approve order number 21-100-8185, transfer request in the amount of $579,275.76 from undesignated fund to miscellaneous mitigation accounts to be used to finish mitigation costs related to trench repair. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram votes yes.
Councilor Perlman.
Councilor Perlman votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0. Thank you, City Engineer DePercio, for that. Thank you. Next item up is 21-100-8206, transfer request in the amount of $10,400,000, which will move funds from ballparks and fields, capital, and undesignated funds to various accounts as noted on the transfer sheet to fund infrastructure projects as outlined by the DPW Commissioner DeVault. I'll read the letter submitted by the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your approval is a transfer request in the amount of $3 million from ballparks and fields capital and $7,400,000 from the undesignated fund to be used for infrastructure projects, including the mill and overlay street list outlined in Commissioner Sean DeVault's memo enclosed. In 2020, I worked with Massachusetts Division of Local Services Commissioner Sean Cronin on legislation to allow municipalities some flexibility with revenue funds during the COVID, and we are taking advantage of this allowance to use funds that we currently have on capital projects. This will allow us to reduce the amount of borrowing, enabling us to continue to manage our debt level and save for future investments. Thank you in advance for your consideration, Commissioner Sean Duvall, and I will be available for any discussion. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. So, couple things. First of all, very unusual for us to be doing a transfer like this to do street construction. But after talking to our finance team, the outside counselors, Councilor Irish and President Ossing, we thought it was probably best to utilize some of the cash we had rather than put the burden on people in the future. It also allows us the opportunity to move forward with the library project without additional bond payments incumbent from street projects, and allows us to move forward on that West Side Fire Station that hopefully at the next meeting over the next 2 meetings we'll be talking about. But it gives us a little more flexibility and opens up a gap in the bonding area. So with that, this bond includes $1.9 million in mill and overlay of various streets. The various streets in the packet, there's 13 different streets that include Ripley, Tucker, Flynn, Teller, Donahue, Doucette, Phelps, Kenny, Bellows, Dorado, Neal, Zumpetti, and Lambert. So those will all be in the overlay projects. It also includes the Cedar Hill pump station that's going to cost the city, it's a water pump, it's going to cost the city $2 million for that construction. It's continuation of the Sudbury Street project. Minahan Sewer is $1.5 million. Donald Lynch Boulevard, we had originally planned on doing in 3 different phases. The costs have escalated, so phase 1 and 2 are completed. We're looking to go into the next phase of the project. This may need to be spread out over 2 additional phases instead of 1. Boston Post Road with the Route 20 project, our commitment is about $3 million on that state project. So before you know it, we spent $10.4 million and talking about some real money. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions for me or the commissioner or his staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions from the finance team?
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, I thought I saw you, Council. Yes, Council.
I don't know, and I'm sorry, with the virtual, sometimes I don't know if you see the hand raised, and I don't know if, I can't see everyone in the chambers, so I apologize. If I interrupted a councilor in the chambers, I'll wait.
No, I actually saw you looking at me, so no, go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay. It was mentioned just a few minutes ago, what's the expectation for Chapter 90 money for road work?
Approximately $1 million. It's a little over $1 million. We actually have the number this year.
Okay. And you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, if I may, on the Donald Lynch Boulevard, it says phase 2, $2 million. You had mentioned phase 1 and 2 were completed. Was that more phase 1's completed and phase 2's the $2 million?
We have 2 phases completed. I don't know, Tom.
Yeah, it's kind of like 1 and 1A that we've completed. That's why.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's fine. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, obviously we're at a difficult time right now with budget and things like that. I'm just curious as to why $3 million out of the parks and ballparks and fields. It's just such a large amount of money.
Yeah, no, so. It's, so we have the field in, the meals tax money that comes in for our fields and recreation facilities because it's been coming in real high, and we've been kind of leaving it in there up until the last 2 years. The last 2 years, we've been pulling out the money. In fact, that's one of the requests tonight, but pull out the money to make the bond payment for those projects. Not to pay cash for the projects, but to take out the bond money. Tonight, we're taking out $1.2 million. The surplus had built up in there, and I think you have a printout of where we are, to the point where I had talked to the commissioner. We put through a bill at the legislature to allow us to use any of our revolving accounts for any purpose this year, because of the COVID issues and the shortfalls that people were talking about. So any communities in the state, with the bill we passed, are allowed to do this. So we analyzed both of those accounts and came up with $3 million that we could transfer out safely, still have enough money in there for this year's payment and next year's payment. Our meals tax revenue right now is down about 73% for the first 3 quarters. When COVID started, we should be getting the 4th quarter shortly, but you know, I think it's probably going to dip a little more because this quarter wasn't a great one, but it's never a great one for restaurants, the first quarter of the year. So, but we're down. Let me change that, reverse it. The rooms tax is down 73%. The meals tax is down about 37%. So it's not down as much. This will still give us money to make the bond payments. But with the surplus in there, we just thought it would be better used for the streets this year than to leave it in there for future parks and recreation facilities.
Okay, thank you. And if I could just make one last statement, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to see Ripley, Tucker, Flynn, and Teller getting done. I just have a lot of concerns because there's a lot of flooding in that area. So hopefully when the work does happen, we can take a look at that. I know a lot of the drainage does not work when it comes to actually the sewer drainage in the actual streets. So if those could be looked at, that would be great. Just while we're there, we can take a look at that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just have a question about the Route 20 Boston Post Road East water main. I'm assuming that's what the pipes are being laid on the side of the road right now for? It's not. I'm hearing a shake of hands. So I'm just trying to figure out what the schedule for this water main is going to be, and if it's not the pipes that are on the side of the road, then what are those pipes?
Yes. Councilor, you have a long headache.
I know, that's why.
Yeah, Counselor, that's Eversource. So this was another instance where Eversource was coordinating with the state. Eversource is replacing their gas mains in not the entire limits, but pretty good portion of the limits between Peters Ave and the town line.
Okay.
So they're in there now. They're gonna be there for quite a while, and then it will probably roll right into the state's project and our water main project.
Okay. I was expecting this a long time ago. Don't get me wrong here, you know. I'm glad that this is being coordinated the way it has, because this is the way it should be done, as far as making sure that all the infrastructure is brought up to snuff before you actually put down some nice pristine pavement on top of it. So what do you see, or do you have an ETA timeframe as far as National Grid doing the gas mains? Are we talking months, or are we talking?
Yeah, I imagine they're going to be there well into the summer.
Okay. And are you going to be working in parallel to them at the water main, or is it going to be?
So the only timeline on the state's project that we have is that they want to advertise for bid in May. So the bidding, I would imagine, is going to take several months. So
it's probably not going to start until 22.
Maybe in the fall of this year, but
oh, really? Okay.
It's possibly that it'll get pushed to next year.
Yeah. Okay. And do you expect the water main project to be completed by then, or you're going to start, well?
So our water main project is part of the state's project.
Okay.
The city's paying for that piece of it.
Got it.
But it's being bid as part of the state's
okay.
project.
So as they work through the road, they'll put down a new water main and then just do it as a
that would be when the state chooses a contractor. Those type of meetings will happen initially. It'll be up to the contractor really how they want to tackle it.
Sure. Okay. Where's the water main? You said it's going to go to Peters Ave, or what's the whole?
Peters, the entire limit, so from Peters Ave to Wayside Inn Road.
Wow, okay. Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Any further questions? Today, motion, Councilor Tenner.
Motion to approve.
I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8206. Transfer request in the amount of $10,400,000, which moves funds from ballparks and fields capital and undesignated funds to various accounts as noted on the transfer sheet to fund infrastructure projects as outlined by the DPW Commissioner Duvall. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram votes yes.
Councilor Pearlman.
Councilor Pearlman votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. Carries 5-0. Okay, if it's all right with the finance team, Mr. Mayor, do you want me to go to the order number 21-100-8208, the transfer of $459,600? Okay. Since the DPW is still, okay, so we'll take up order number 21-100-8208, transfer request in the amount of $459,600, which moves funds from and to various accounts within DPW to fund equipment for the Easterly wastewater treatment plant. I will read the letter submitted by the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your approval are two transfer requests totaling $459,600 to fund equipment for the Easterly wastewater treatment plant, reallocating costs from the We Care solid waste account and to curbside rubbish account, and increased tipping fees for recycling. Commissioner Duvall and I will be available for any further discussion if needed. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor.
These are just some various account transfers that we needed to do at the DPW, and again, the team is here if anyone has any questions on the individual transfers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank Commissioner Duvall as well for submitting the information there. And I know Assistant Commissioner Scott has always given us a big tutorial on the whole recycling bit. So I will open that up to the Finance Committee if they have any questions or discussions.
Mr. Chairman?
Council Oram.
Thank you. First question would be with the We Care account. We have an excess due to the end of the We Care contract. I believe it says available balance of $885,475.
Correct.
What is the plan for the rest of that money, if I'm correct, to know there should be still a balance left?
So that account covers trash and sludge, so the balance of it is sludge disposal. Is that what you're asking?
So in the end, we won't have any available balance left from that We Care account contract?
There shouldn't be any.
Okay. I was just thinking if we did, maybe. And
so just a little background.
Assistant Commissioner Ted Scott, I presume that's you. It sounds like your voice. I presume that's you. Yeah, I see you now in the picture there. You and I talked about the recycling cost and how things are changing. And actually, I've talked to some of the people down at the station. Where are we? Can you forecast a little bit, maybe a little bit into next year? Are we seeing this as a continuance, or do you think sooner or later we'll start making some money on our cardboard?
So we're talking about curbside is a different, that single stream, which is at 95 a ton right now. That's been constant for over a year now. So back in 2017, it was it was free to recycle, and then it started jumping up after that, up to 50, and then progressively. But it's been holding pretty stable now. The transfer station is a different thing because we have multiple streams going where we can pull the cardboard out. You can't do that curbside. So what we have, that's single stream. Just to go back to the other, when you say, will there be excess, the tonnage of trash and the tonnage of sludge is never known, so we have an estimate and it gets weighed. So there may be an excess at the end. So it's a number that will cover the amount, but you're never sure how much gets weighed by the end. So there's usually an excess in those accounts because of whatever gets, the tonnage that gets weighed.
And Ted, you've been very helpful with answering my questions in the past, but maybe this will help for the citizens of Marlborough, our constituents, to know there's still a cost savings if I take my clean, non-wet cardboard down to the transfer station?
Absolutely.
Versus single stream?
Absolutely. We separate it down there, and it's a $25 a ton value.
Excellent. Versus paying $90 a ton to get rid of it in single stream?
Yeah, 95. Yep.
So I'll continue, and I hope all our constituents will. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8208, a transfer request in the amount of $459,600, which moves funds from into various accounts within the DPW to fund equipment for the Easterly Wastewater Treatment Plant. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram votes yes.
Councilor Pearlman.
Councilor Pearlman votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, so the next one we'll go to is order number 21-100-8207.
And these guys go. Thank you.
A transfer request in the amount of $1,250,101 from the meals tax revenue account to fund the FY21 bond payments associated with parks and recreation improvements. And I will read the letter submitted by the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your approval is a transfer request in the amount of $1,250,101 from the meals tax revenue account to fund the FY21 bond payments associated with parks and recreation improvements. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just the amount of money we need for this year's budget for the bond payments that are due on the fields and recreation facilities that we've done some borrowing on. So it's just a transfer to get it, to make the payment, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we did receive as well in our Excel spreadsheet, going over some of the authorized proposed debt services that these will cover. If any other discussion, I will open it up to the finance team for any questions or discussions. Seeing none, I will Council Perman? I'm sorry. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8208, a transfer, 100-8207, transfer request in the amount of $1,250,101 from the meals tax revenue account to fund the FY21 bond payment associated with parks and recreation improvements. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Counselor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Counselor Oram.
Counselor Oram votes yes.
Counselor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes.
And Counselor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, so what we'll do is we will go back and revisit order number 20-100-7959. The City Council review the results of the FY21 abbreviated budget process, and is further ordered that the City Council approve the Massachusetts Department of Revenue Finance review recommendation for adopting an abbreviated budget authorization format for all departments for further city budgets, submitted by Councilor Irish and Councilor Oram, Councilor Ossing. I would like to highlight as well that, going back to way back in 2006, the Financial Management Review of the City of Marlborough, Massachusetts Department of Revenue recommended that the city adopt several best financial practices, including approving the city budget with salary expenditure accounts for each department, as opposed to the past practices of approving each individual line item. This recommendation was also made in the city's fiscal year 2016 audit performed by Roselli, Clark, and Associates, and department heads would not be able to add funds to their approved salary or expenditure accounts without city council approval. I'd also like to highlight that the city has an incredibly talented team of managers and department heads, and that makes the abbreviated budget process absolutely work since FY18. And I'd like to open it up to the rest of the Finance Committee for any questions or discussion. But like I said, this goes back to adopting this abbreviated budget from FY18. Council Oram.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would have sponsored it as well, even though it was Councilor Ossing, President Ossing. Just a quick note, we look, and thank you for the list from our auditor. It seems a lot of it's overtime. So with that said, hopefully when we start looking at the FY22 budget, if indeed it's becoming more of a routine that we need additional funding for that, fine. If we can still manage and live within the overtime, that's okay too. But it seemed to be when you look at the transfers, there was a lot of it to overtime. I just wanted to make that point so when we start doing our budgeting, we can be aware of these different departments that needed to place or request transfers to overtime. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Oram. Any further discussion? I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion has been made, and I will second that to approve.
Councilor Irish.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It looked like Councilor Roby was trying to comment.
Sorry, Councilor Roby. I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Sorry, I was on mute and I was trying to talk at the same time. I don't mean to delay this very much. I think that considering every year since this was first proposed, it has been a motion to just do this 1 year at a time, that I'm happy that the decision by the order makers to make this a forever decision. We don't have to come back and do this every single year, that this will just be what we do from now on, is a great idea, and I fully support it, and think it's about time that we make it easier. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. I want to thank President Ossing, because way back when I was on the finance team, he did recommend this back then, and the process does work, and we do have incredible department heads, and we have a great team in the city of Marlborough. With that said, motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 20-100-7959, that the City Council review the results of the FY21 abbreviated budget process, and is further ordered that the City Council approves the Massachusetts Department of Revenue Finance Review recommendation for adopting the abbreviated budget authorization format for all departments for future city budgets. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Counselor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Counselor Oram.
Counselor Oram votes yes.
Counselor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes.
And Counselor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0.
Mr. Chair, this is Counselor Roby. I'm not on finance, but I wonder, will you ask for a suspension so this can be voted at the next meeting, or is it needed for the timeline for the budget going forward?
I think we wanted it, I believe, I'll consult with President Austin, but I believe we wanted it done before March 15th, so leave us enough time. So I don't think we would need a suspension.
We wouldn't need an suspension, correct, Mayor? You all set? It just goes, so it'll be approved, reported out on
It could go through the regular process, Counselor. The only thing that I would like to move forward, if we could, was, well, actually, we haven't taken it up yet, but the rescission of the bonds to advertise. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else on here. But my finance team is here. Diane Smith and Patrick Jones are both here, and you can either one of you chime in if you think there's anything else we would need under suspension.
I don't believe that we needed a suspension. We should be fine.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Roby. I will go to the last item on the agenda, which is order number 21-100-8211, a request to rescind $4,889,927 in various bonds for projects that are either complete or no longer available for bonding due to regulations. I will begin by reading the letter submitted by the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, please find enclosed for your review an order to rescind $4.8 million in various bonds and enclosed order from City Solicitor Grossfield. Also attached are the original appropriations detailing the use. These bonds are ready to be rescinded either because the projects are complete or as they are no longer available to be bonded due to regulations. The city may not spend the full value on bonds for various reasons, including lower than expected project costs or the use of other funding sources. Rescinding these bonds will help maintain our financial position by lowering the amount of debt authorized and outstanding. The city's outstanding debt level is one factor that rating agencies review when determining the city's rating on new issuances. Thanks to the city's financial team dedication, we continue to secure advantageous interest rates, which results in significant savings for our taxpayers. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your finance team for setting this up with the information. One question that I did have is regulations change, that can change from year to year for regulations and things of bond issuances and.
No, I mean, these have been sitting on the books, and we're really just trying to clean them up. Both, Diane Smith and Patrick Jones have been working on identifying. One council was called just to verify and make sure we had everything in order, and so there you go. We just wanted to make sure we're all set, but these were loose bonds that we didn't clean up a few years ago when we were doing this once before, but they're excess, and I just want to get them off the books. All this is in preparation, again, on trying to have things in order when we go for the next two projects. Well, when we go for the final project that we're looking at, which is the fire station.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll leave it to the finance team first if they had any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Council Oram.
Just more, if we could, on the $3,095,000 for various construction of municipal outdoor recreation facilities. What projects does this relate to?
That was the old landfill. As soon as we had the money approved, we were actually, a meeting was set up to go visit Boston Scientific to see if they would participate with us, and it was canceled because we heard from DEP that the landfill had never been properly maintained. So we've been working on that for the last few years. My feeling was, if in fact we decide we want to do a field or a project up there, I didn't feel right in using the money that was approved by this council several years ago. I thought I should update the council if we're going to spend that kind of money. So depending on what we do up at the landfill, obviously I'll be coming back down to see you before anything is done. But we figured it was better to rescind that and come back down for a fresh bond once we've made decisions. This year we will be going in there and doing the additional capping that needed to be done. We're up to that point, and hopefully this whole thing is put to bed by the end of the summer. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Doucette.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of comments and questions. It's important that we actually go back and clean this stuff up. So I give you guys much more credit because this is the due diligence that usually people, kind of avoid in getting the stuff done and cleaned up. Again, makes us look better in the eyes of any investments in the future. Thank you for the update on the recreational facility at the landfill too. The one that was for the Eastleigh wastewater treatment plant, has that been completed, or was that?
Those are all completed.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion is made, I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8211, a request to rescind $4,889,927 in various bonds for projects that are either complete or no longer available for bonding due to regulations. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram votes yes.
Councilor Pearlman.
Councilor Pearlman votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0. That is the end of the items on our agenda. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to.
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas. Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram votes yes.
Councilor Pearlman.
Councilor Pearlman votes yes.
Councilor Irish votes yes. We are adjourned at 7:43 p.m. Thank you, Finance team. Great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.